Joining us now, Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes. Khalif, we've been talking about this. We know it's going to take an act of Congress here, but legally, where does it stand? Because does this open up for any legal challenges when you talk about the protections that the Department of Ed is responsible for looking at?
Well, I mean, as you mentioned, we know it's going to take an act of Congress. I think we know that, but I'm not sure if the administration does. I mean, yesterday was, I think, more symbolic than anything. It was, I made this promise during the campaign, promise answered, promise delivered. Okay, I got it. But at the end of the day, does it have any teeth to it? Does it have a bite, or is it just a bark? It really has to, you have to look at how they're attempting to do this. You already gutted half of the department. And so in essence, if this dismantling is saying I'm firing the rest of the folks and I am not closing down the Department of Education, but if there's no employees, it's in essence closed down, then yes, you've circumvented Congress. And so you've opened up the Department of Education and every other department for all kind of litigation. This was going to be lawsuits on type of lawsuits because the president does not have the authority to do so. I have to be clear. We've given President Trump an extreme amount of leeway when we talk about what the executive can do. If there's an agency that the executive has created, specifically DOJ, let's use that example. President Trump could have signed an order yesterday, DOJ could shut down, there'd be no argument, there's no lawsuits. It's an executive administrative order that started it, executive administrative order can close it. Anything that Congress started, needs, must have, requires, any other words you want to use, must have Congress to shut it down.
President Reagan tried to do the same thing back in '81, and he ended up finally, I wouldn't say completely giving up, but just decided to settle. Let's just make large cuts. Let's make it more efficient. Let's tighten the budget up, yes, which is what seems like the purpose of DOJ is.
100%.
So at what point do you think that Trump may have to settle for that instead of a complete dismantle?
There are multiple ways to get where he wants to go. You just have to follow the rules. And right now, President Trump doesn't want to follow the rule. Let's be clear. Reagan did it. Clinton, his administration attempted to do it. The last time that Department of Education was attempted to be, by Congress to be shut down was 2023. They just didn't have the votes. And so there have been a number of times when the Department of Education from either the president or from Congress has attempted to be shut down. It just hasn't been successful by doing the normal method. But the president does have within his power something they call a request to reorganize. But who does he have to ask for that? Congress. He still has to go to Congress. All roads lead to Congress. You can't try to go around them if you want, but at the end of the day, if you look at precedent, if you look at our Constitution, if you look at all the statutes, all kind of the three things that are important when you're trying to do something like this, you got to go through Congress. There's no way around it.
Well, so how does that officially start, right? So you can sign this executive order, the request to reorganize, but what's the first step to actually, hey, we really want this to happen from the Trump administration? What has to happen in order for Congress to get that and potentially vote on it?
You're going to need someone in the House to bring this up and say, look, this is something that we want. You're going to have the votes, and then you're going to have the votes in the Senate. And I don't think you have either one of those. And so even if it passes by some slim majority in the House, it won't make it anywhere in the Senate. And so it's dead on arrival. And so that's why these administrative executive orders, while Trump is attempting to do this by circumventing them, because if you had the numbers, I wouldn't be doing this dance. If I already know that I have a winning hand, I wouldn't put down a pair. I'd put down my full. I know that in this situation, this is just not something that he recognized and that congressional support is there. And so now these are more political strategies. But who's getting hurt in the middle? The employees, because while he's letting these folks go, while he's terminating them unlawfully, they're suing and judges are saying they need to get their jobs back. So these are power plays for the future, and they're hurting folks right now in the middle. Because while you have folks on this side of the aisle applauding and happy that this is happening, you have folks on the other side extremely frustrated. And you have the employees trying to figure out, well, what do I do in the middle? Why? Do I have a job? Do I not have a job? You have states trying to figure out, is the needing funding that they need to help programs run going to actually come in? Let's think about it. Only 14% of the budget for most states comes from the federal government for academic stuff. Most of the funding that we're talking about that comes from the Department of Education is for food. It's for low-income Title I folk schools. Those are the types of things that we're talking about cutting. We're not talking about education. So it's a backhanded compliment when they say, I'm ready to get it back to the state so we can determine what education looks like in our individual state. Well, that already happens. It happens on a state basis based on curriculum. So you're not talking about curriculum. So what are you talking about? Are you talking about funding? Well, it's not funding because 84% of it will come from your state. So now you're talking about these programs for folks that don't have the resources, trying to get that equity piece. If I live in a low income area and I don't have books, I don't have computers, well, the federal government is going to ensure that I have those things. Okay, we don't want that. Is that what we're saying? Because that's actually what's happening right now. On the other side of folks saying, let's get rid of the Department of Education, allow the states to do it, they're saying these folks that need these resources will not get them in the next couple of days. Special needs, low income folks, folks that don't have food. Those are the people that are going to be hurt right now, and the employees that are supposed to be monitoring this won't be there to monitor it.
Khalif, one of the things that you brought up there, and I'm glad you clarified there, that the states do control the way the education goes in the states. That's already happened there. But when you talk about Title IX, Title VI, those funds for those people, Trump has said that those will go maybe to other departments. But when it's just kind of up in the air like that, can you have that kind of, middle ground where we're not sure who's going to look after it, but somebody will? Can you do that when you're talking about legal protections that we know by law have to be in place?
Things that Congress wrote out and said, look, we've appropriated these funds and we've written these rules that they're supposed to go in this manner. And now we're saying we're not going to follow that. We'll do our own thing. But let's even take it a little step further. If we're saying I'm the person at home that has a kid with special needs and I'm worrying about what it looks like for tomorrow for them. Okay, the president signed this and he has kids holding up these flyers and everything looks great. But my kid needs those funds. And today I request that the Department of Education sends them. Who do I ask for them now? Am I asking for Raleigh to send them to me? And I'm not even sure if they recognize that these are a need that my child has. I mean, that process will be amplified for those type of individuals. So while we can talk about the legal battles, and I know they're coming, and I think the law is behind anybody that challenges what the president is attempting to do just based on precedent. But I think in the middle, the folks that are going to be hurt the most are going to be the folks that have these special needs that aren't going to know who to call, who to email, who to look for, because most of that stuff is coming down off the websites. So it's going to be not there anymore.
All right, Khalif Rhodes, just one of many topics that we're going to talk about throughout the morning. Thanks. Appreciate it.